Julian,
Nice
nice
to meet
meeting you, sir.
Nice to meet you.
All right, let us know about you.
So my name is Julian Maha. I'm an emergency medicine doctor by trade, and I also about 3 years ago now co-founded Culture City, which is a national autism nonprofit that's grown pretty quickly, and it's based right here in Birmingham. How about you?
Well, my name is F Pineda, and I am a physician too.
Oh, awesome!
Right?
Yeah.
I'm an oncologist, and I'm certainly older than you are. Obviously, I'm.
It's called good plastic.
No, but I have been in practice for almost about 40 years. Over time, I have my practice in medical oncology, but over time, looking at the suffering of what I call my people who suffer cancer, I thought that they suffer enough and I needed to do something beyond just treating their cancer. So I went to culinary school because I thought that eating is one of the most privileged pleasures in life. There are some others, but just happen that eating and enjoying your food is important to you. That's the reason why you like it, right?
Right, exactly.
So we have studied quite a lot what happens, cancer itself, the treatment associated with cancer, chemotherapies, radiation therapies, and the changes in the smell, the taste, the level of absorption of the food, the nutritional requirement of people going through chemotherapy. So we basically try to create recipes that one way or another accomplishes pleasure with nutrition for this special group of people who have greater needs. Right? So now tell me about your institution. What you are doing with it?
Yeah, sure thing. No, that's very fascinating. So about 5 years ago now, my oldest son Abram was diagnosed with autism, and even though my wife's actually a physician as well, she's a pediatric intensivist at Children's, it was very difficult for us, number one, to get him diagnosed, and number two, to kind of get help and getting pointed in the right direction, because Abram was talking right up to 2 years old, and then pretty much overnight, he stopped talking. And when we took him to Children's, they basically said, well, it might have been some kind of traumatic experience, that kind of thing. So they've never diagnosed him. So finally things got pretty bad that we ended up going to Vanderbilt, to one of the top guys in the US. And he walked into your typical medical examining room, and within 5 minutes he pretty much told us, your son has classical autism. He's never going to talk. He'll probably never say I love you. And you basically just need to think seriously about putting him in an institution in 2 years. And he was 4 at that time. So it was really, one of the most traumatic experiences in our lives. And it was kind of, we call it like a period of mourning. Kind of like a loss of this son. But then we just started realizing that we were just mourning for our hopes and aspirations for him, not really what God had intended Abram to do. And it was that moment in time that we realized this is really liberating, because everything he's going to go on and accomplish in this world, it's going to be a bonus, because society has already told him he's never going to amount to anything. So we started this pursuit of really figuring out how we could help him learn and really be accepted by our community. And we started doing this, we started learning that more and more families throughout the US were going through what we were doing, but we were blessed because we had resources. So then about, in August of 2013, we realized that we actually had to do something tangible. So looking at the national market, we felt that there was this niche of parents that needed tangible help with the diagnosis of special needs, autism in particular. And February of 2014, we officially formed Culture City. And it's one of these organizations that, when we started it, we intended it to be Birmingham-centric. But for whatever reason, it started growing outside Birmingham very quickly. And it's, the last 3 years we've been the best rated nonprofit in the US. And actually last year we were selected by Microsoft as one of the top 10 nonprofits in the US. So it's been a very, really quick growth. And I think through that, not only have we been able to help our son, but we've been able to also make a measurable impact in a lot of lives of a lot of children everywhere. Yeah, but going into what you were talking about, I think that's really, really amazing kind of what you've done, because as a physician, I've dealt with cancer as well, and I think you're absolutely right. I think one of the times us as physicians do is we see a patient, but we never see them as a person. And I think for you to do what you've done by taking the extra leap in wanting them to actually appreciate what they eat, I think that's phenomenal. So how have you been able to do that? How do you get your recipes? What have you done with all that?
Well, first of all, Julian, I tell you, I'm being touched by what you're saying. I think that it's a great cause for
Thank you.
I congratulate you, and I can see the necessities and needs for that.
Yeah.
Cancer touches my family. My father suffered of cancer, and I can see where your emotions and your decisions in going into it, because it was a personal touch to you as well.
Exactly.
But in general practice, we see in oncology the suffering, and more suffering, and more suffering. And one way or another, you have to provide a breakthrough. One way or another, physicians have to become just not a provider of a prescription and medicine that you would take, because that creates, to some extent, in my view, the concept that there is a pill for everything. There's a pill for happiness, there's a pill for everything. And I really think that you can show your caring by going beyond the call of duty and try to provide people with something that otherwise they don't get. And I think that that is a motivation that comes because, at least in cancer management, I understand that people want to get cured, but at the end of the day, they want to know that you have cared for them.
Exactly.
Right?
Right.
So caring comes in different forms, and you just happen to choose to do the cooking part. And really and truly, and to my great deal of satisfaction, has gone into a lot of research, mostly reading, a lot of experimentation. Come to my house, and the kitchens in my house look like a normal kitchen, but when you start looking at the details of things, it becomes a little bit of a laboratory. And it's a laboratory because we do a lot of experiment, and then the funny part out of the situation is that we are not afraid of failure. 10 tries and only one works. But it's glorious, because then it gives you the satisfaction that you have done something pretty good about it.
Right.
So that defines the things. And obviously the other thing that happened to us is that from caring only for the patient comes associated with a sphere surrounding them that is called family. And then the family many times is the one that provides the support to this. And the family begins to question, what myself, not just my patient, can do to get healthier and maybe eat better. So we have expanded to some extent that. And in my crazy mind, I think that one way or another, I hope that eventually we make a difference to the health of this country by making people eat healthier food.
Yeah.
There are some studies about autism and
exactly.
food, isn't it?
No, you're absolutely right. But how have you scaled it? So, have you created a nonprofit, or how have you been getting the word out about what have you been doing?
Yes, we do have a nonprofit. We operate on the basis of our own finances. The services that we provide are provided for free. So, for example, we have compact discs with executions of certain recipes. We have a cookbook that is the same thing. We go in lecturing not only locally, but we have gone international and nationally, and we don't charge a single penny for what we do. Of course, like any non-profit institution, people donate some time to us. And then, of course, that money is utilized in refurnishing the services.
Yeah, exactly.
But it has been our wish and desires since the very beginning that we were not going to charge a dime for the services.
No, that's excellent. Yeah.
We just want people to know that we are there and that we are there for their service.
No, that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, you're absolutely right about the connection with food and autism, because I think coming from a medical background, you always are not really taught in medical school about the kind of connections that food can potentially have in your health. And what we found with Abram was that, food has played a big role in how he's done. It's the simple stuff, like any refined sugar for him is bad. It causes behavior spikes, hyperactivity, that kind of thing. We've also found, interesting enough, that gluten and dairy products, even though he's not technically allergic to it in the true sense of the word, they can actually cause him to have emotional outbursts and things like that. So it's stuff that we would have never been taught in medical school. And if you had asked me, 6 years ago, I would have said, it's probably rubbish. But now when you see it effective in your own child, it definitely changes, everything. So you're absolutely right. Food is integral because it's really the only thing you can control, that, what you put in your body yourself.
Well, you're talking my language.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
Because the fact is that we don't blame carbohydrates or refined sugars or refined flours, but we know that the absorption of that through the gastrointestinal tract is actually enhanced. So the so-called glycemic index, right?
Correct.
And then we know that being a percentage of the absorption of what you eat, when you have refined flour, you absorb 100% of that. And now we know that raises your blood sugars, changes your insulin pattern, and that in itself favors, in the biochemistry of the cells, the formation of the so-called hyperoxide, and then consequently changes in the genes and development of cancer. So boy, I tell you, I love what you're talking about.
Yeah, because this is the thing, if you have a child with autism, the first thing that you find out is that, food affects their behavior. The second thing you find out is that they're very picky eaters. We always say that it's not 5 food groups, it's always 5 food types. And it's normally French fries, nuggets, pizza, and French fries. That's what they eat. A majority of people, I still remember a couple months ago, we helped change the diet of a 16-year-old boy who ate nothing but Doritos. That was what he ate, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That was his meal for, 8 years. And when we started changing his dietary habits, his whole family life transformed for the better. So it is a very, fascinating thing. And we've kind of delved into the dietary stuff, a little bit. And actually, interestingly enough, I'm actually on my way to New York tomorrow to meet up with, I don't know if you've heard of his name, Chef Rocco Di Spirito. He's one of the Food Network chefs, and we're actually thinking of bringing him on to create a dietary component for what we do. So this is kind of serendipitous. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So is that meaning to say that they are thinking that perhaps in autism they may perhaps develop a special diet that applies to them?
Yeah, exactly. I think the biggest thing is to help the families understand that diet can have a tremendous role in helping their child not necessarily get better from the speech standpoint, but actually have a better day, in the sense that, because when you look at autism, the primary characteristics are they are very labile from an emotion perspective. 1 minute they can be happy, 1 minute they can be upset. They're very routine orientated. They have very poor social skills, and they are very hyperactive with sometimes lack of focus. So when you look at all that, a healthy diet fundamentally can make a difference in every single one of those things. But unfortunately, when you have a child that's diagnosed, food is the last thing you think about, because you're trying to put in your child in all the kinds of therapy. It's kind of like, I guess, when you're diagnosed with cancer, therapy is the first thing you look at. You forget about there's all these other things that can make my life more productive, and maybe make my life easier. So I think the idea behind, this is to help the families understand that diet is the first thing that you can control, and it has the biggest and quickest rate of success compared with anything else. Yeah.
Julian, I see obviously you're very involved
Yeah.
in this, and while you was talking, I was thinking, how much has your dedication and commitment to autism and this trying to help other people interfere with your ability to practice medicine?
It hasn't interfered yet. It's very busy because it's kind of akin to having 3 jobs. I'm a full-time ER physician, run a national nonprofit, and also a full-time dad. But I'm sure you can relate because you're kind of wearing multiple hats as well.
Yes, so obviously my days seem to be substantially fuller, and I thought that as I become older, I was going to be easier, and it's not getting any easier.
Yeah.
It is getting more complicated. But to some extent, in my line of things, traveling has not been that crucial. And it seems to me like you're having to travel quite a lot because it's a national corporation.
Well, we have a really good team. The reason we travel is mostly if we have some meetings with corporate, companies, things like that. We do have a lot of speaking engagements that I speak at. So those are the things. I try never to travel more than 1 night away from home because I try not to leave the boys too long. So I always try to do direct flights.
Right.
Yeah, so it does keep me busy. But like I said, busy is good, right?
Well, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
The other thing I was thinking is, I'm sure that your wife is not only busy already with her profession, but if she's as intense in this as you are, I mean, that is a full commitment and a full-time thing for her as well.
Yeah. No, definitely, like I said, she's kind of the rock of the relationship. So without her, nothing of this would be accomplished. And I think the basic thing is that we always want to make sure is that whatever we're doing, we are parents first and foremost. Because you can get lost in this. I'm sure, there are times when you feel that it's kind of can become overwhelming, but you never want to lose sight of the reason you started this, right?
Right.
Yeah.
In my family, it's funny because I think that you and your wife influence whatever is going to happen to your children.
Yeah.
In my case, I even have a daughter who became a chef too.
Oh, nice.
So it is kind of like you pass it along.
Yeah.
The seed is put into it,
right.
and it keeps on growing, and it keeps on growing. So it is nice. And one of the things that I will say to you that comes across very nicely, and I certainly appreciate it, is the intensity of the way you are looking at this thing. And really and truly, I think that creates success. And I certainly wish that your corporation and what your objectives are come true, because I'm sure that it will, given the intensity that you put into it.
Well, like I said, I don't know if you know the stats, but if you look at autism per se, it is the fastest growing developmental diagnosis. If you were to combine diabetes, cancer, and HIV in children, autism rates are significantly higher than those 3 things combined. And the trouble is that we have this whole generation of kids now that are being diagnosed that when they hit 18 or 19, society is totally unprepared. They're not really sure where these kids can fit in from a job perspective, or even from a societal perspective. And I think that's a huge issue that we've never tackled as a country, and it needs to be tackled. And that's kind of what we're hoping, to do, not only on a national level, but in the same time in Birmingham, because we live in a great city, and I think little by little our message has translated locally, too. Because if you're not successful in your hometown, there's no point being successful nationally. It has to impact your own hometown. And I think, like from what you're doing, it sounds like your work has impacted Birmingham as well. So how do people find out about you and what you do? Is there a website or?
Well, we have a website. It's cookingwithcancer.org.
Okay.
And of course, we have all this material that one way or another has been distributed around. So many times, people will say, "Oh, I have your book." Maybe because a friend has known about the book, and this friend has cancer, so this friend has obtained the book and give it to them, and it has kind of like a spread,
Yeah.
you know.
Right.
Which, you know, we wanted. We want to be known, if anything, because that expands our ability to help them.
Exactly. Yeah.
What about you? How do they find?
Yeah, mostly through social media or our website, Culture City. It's spelled with a K, so it's KULTURECITY.org. And then we also have a really big upcoming event on August 5th and 6th. You should definitely come. Yeah. Well, it's great talking to you.
Well, my pleasure, Julian.
I know.
Thank
It's a
you very
pleasure.
much.
Thank you again.